something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, they're licensed. They're not allowed to do that.
미 합중국 대통령은 이에 예를 표시하면서 조미 사이의 선의의 대화가 진행되는 동안
I would like to humbly bow before the dear leader and tell him I'm sorry for everything I've ever said that was mean and ridiculed him. Donald Trump in no way is a fat piece of shit fascist. No, he is a thin, smart, handsome man, the likes of which the world has never seen. I couldn't do it. Can't do it. Not gonna do it. I had to break out the sport coat in honor of the propagandist, the North Korean supplicant. Had to throw on the vestiges of ass-kissery. Not a normal thing for me. Yesterday on Air Force One on the way back from the United Kingdom, Donald Trump was asked a series of questions. Cha-cha-cha. You like the bit? Funny, right? Asked a series of questions about the firing of Jimmy Kimmel, the indefinite suspension of Jimmy Kimmel at his behest, at the behest of the FCC chairman. This in no way was a private business decision. We know because Donald Trump told us so in several tweets. One in July, where he said, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go. Good to see them go. I hope I played a major role in it, major part in it, he said. And then just 2 days ago, great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. That leaves Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers, two total losers on fake news NBC. Do it, NBC, 3 exclamation points, says the president of the United States of America, President DJT. It's not a private company decision. This is at the behest of Donald Trump. No matter what, the liars and the absolute propagandists over at Fox News would have you believe. And Donald Trump was asked about this very thing, about the firing of Jimmy Kimmel. And it's so strange that they want you to believe that it was just ABC, just Disney making a business decision. That's all it is. If that was the case, when asked about it, Donald Trump would say, I don't know. What the hell would I have to know or to say about the firing of Jimmy? That's a private thing. That's a business decision. Who cares? Not my business. I'm the president of the United States. I've got bigger fish to fry. That's what he would say. He wouldn't launch into this weird justification for the firing, that he's a no talent whack job and low ratings or no ratings or whatever. He wouldn't do that, which is exactly what he did. And he showed his ass when he said, all they do is hit Trump. All they do is hit Trump. You can't do that. Watch this.
But what that radical left group of people did to our country will never be forgotten. Okay, have a good trip, everybody.
One more? Just one last question. Who would you like to see replace Kimmel?
Who
would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
Well, a lot of people, anybody could replace him. The guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired. He had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent. And more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent, they get ratings. But he had no ratings. His ratings were worse than Colbert, I think. They got rid of Colbert, which was a good thing to do. And look, that's something that should be talked about for licensing too. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. If you go back, I guess they haven't had a conservative on in years or something, somebody said. But when you go back and you take a look, all they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that.
Yes, they are allowed to do that. That's their whole job, dipshit. They're comedians. Every president since late night was a thing was harangued and mocked and made fun of, and jokes were made about them. Every single one. Conservatives and Democrats alike. You don't think Bill Clinton, fat McDonald's loving Bill Clinton, didn't get mocked? You don't think he got mocked over the entire thing where he violated an intern in the White House using the mighty power and influence to take advantage of a young, unpaid White House intern? You don't think that Bill Clinton got shit for that, Donald Trump? You don't think Obama was made fun of? The only difference is every other president wasn't the thin-skinned weakling that you are. Every other president had some modicum, some rudimentary understanding of the Constitution of the United States and the very First Amendment therein, that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, and all the other things relative to individual liberties, up to and including the freedom of speech. Political speech especially. When you have a network and you have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump, that's all they do. All they do is hit Trump. They're not allowed to do that, says Donald Trump. Again, yes, they are. Who says they're not allowed to make fun of you, Donald Trump? Public servant, Donald Trump. Not a king, not a sovereign, not a dictator. You're an elected public servant, despite what your cult believes. We exist in reality. We deal with reality on reality's terms. Now, you might be chipping away at the foundations of a democratic society. You might be champing at the bit for your fascist rule, to overturn the First Amendment, to disregard the Constitution. But the rest of us know the score. We know what's at play here. But Jimmy Kimmel, first of all, again, why are you justifying something you had nothing to do with? Jimmy Kimmel being a whack job isn't a justification for you meddling with a private company and having someone fired for making fun of you. If you don't want to be made fun of, Donald Trump, we'll end it here. If you don't want to be made fun of, Donald Trump, maybe don't be so easily made fun of. Don't make it so easy. Every single joke is just low-hanging fruit because you're an ignorant clod. Ignorant clod.
Charlie said, that there was no such thing as hate speech. He obviously, no one anticipated what happened to Charlie, but you have always been
The right wing right now is going gangbusters trying to convince America that Donald Trump gives a single shit about the life, the legacy, the death of Charlie Kirk. In fact, Jimmy Kimmel, the thing that he said that was so offensive to MAGA world had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's death. It had to do with how Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about his death. Hey, how are you doing? My condolences to the loss of your friend. How are you holding up? Yeah, I think pretty well. Did you see the trucks? I got the construction thing going on. We're doing the ballroom. Fantastic ballroom. Lots of gold. It's going to be great. I love ballrooms, he says. That's why. And look, if it wasn't clear from that and every other response you've seen him give, this clip should just lay bare that Donald Trump does not, never did, does not now, and never will care about the death of his dear friend, Charlie Kirk. Yesterday, an interview was posted on Fox News between Donald Trump and Martha McCallum. When did soft folk, and it's not even soft folk, when did blurry camera work become cool? What is going on? I have a monitor here that shows me to make sure that I'm in focus at all times, because that's how cameras work. Not with Fox News, apparently. Not with their female anchors, and not with Donald Trump, who's so desperately insecure that he needs to also be the Carrie Lake treatment in his clips. But in this clip, that was a digression. In this clip, Donald Trump just lets you know, I don't give a shit about Charlie Kirk, because Martha McCallum is asking the question. She's saying, listen, Charlie Kirk said there was no such thing as hate speech. He was a free speech warrior. All that's not true. He did say that, but he also lived a different way by targeting professors and having them harassed and stalked and threatened by his Turning Point USA idiots. So that's not true. But Donald Trump's response is, yeah, he's probably not saying that now. What? He might not be saying that now. Do you think? I can agree. I can agree. Watch this. I'll play just the offending moment, and then later we'll play the full clip so you can hear his insane, batshit crazy, rambling, demented answer. First, though, Charlie Kirk's not saying that now.
Charlie said, that there was no such thing as hate speech. He obviously, no one anticipated what happened to Charlie, but you have always been.
Imagine this. Imagine this. If Jimmy Kimmel, instead of saying that they're trying to score political points using the death of Charlie Kirk as a weapon, that's paraphrasing what he said. But instead of saying that, the thing he actually said, what if he had said, Charlie Kirk might not be saying that now? The right wing would be losing their minds. They would be apoplectic over the fact that the legacy of Charlie Kirk, the life of Charlie Kirk was being made light of, that his death was being mocked. But when the dear leader says it, dismisses it, it's A-okay. So let's do what we do here on this program. I want you to focus on what the question was from Martha McCallum, and then what Donald Trump's absolutely inexplicable answer was, the full width and breadth of it. So she asks, keep it in mind. So do you have concerns that some people look at this and your critics will say, well, this crackdown is a crackdown on free speech? Do you have any concerns that people are going to think this is a crackdown on free speech? That's the question. And what will follow will confuse you.
No one anticipated what happened to Charlie, but you have always been in favor of free speech. Yeah, so do you have concerns about, some people look at this and your critics will say, well, this crackdown is a crackdown on free speech?
It's interesting. I watch your show and I watch others, and I see people saying things. They're crazy. These people are crazed lunatics, even the way they'll answer. It's like you'll see them, and the things they say are really bad. But they look crazy. They're almost crazed. Maybe they're drugged out. Maybe there's some other problem. But the kind of things you hear, you probably don't put most of them on. But the kind of things you hear are so unbelievable. You wouldn't think, you're a very regular person. I am too. I'm a regular person. Who would make the statements that they make?
Make that make sense. What did our human apostrophe of a president, what is this? Is this vital masculine posture? This is their guy. This is their dear leader, the unassailable macho man, Donald Trump, who can't even sit straight. Fantastic. But did you hear that answer? Do you have concerns that this crackdown will be looked at as a crackdown on free speech? Yeah, it's interesting. I watch your show. I watch others. I see other people saying things. They're crazy. These people are crazed lunatics. Even the way they'll answer, it's like you'll see them and the things they are really bad, but they look crazy. They're almost crazed. Maybe they're drugged out. Maybe there's some other problem, but the kind of things you hear, it's actually, you probably don't put most of them on. The kind of things you hear are so unbelievable. You wouldn't think, you're a very regular person. I am too. I'm a very regular person who would make the statements they make. What in the fuck is he talking about? We're in danger, and not just from the violations of the United States Constitution, the assault on our individual personal liberties, not even just that. The fact that we have a lunatic, speaking of lunatics, as president of the United States. We have someone whose brain is malfunctioning. It's like he's having a series of mini strokes, major strokes in the semblance of in the time frame of just this answer. And they're celebrating. This is leadership. This makes total sense. Of course, he answered the question. He did not answer the question. And I'm sure, and by the way, that was after charitable editing on the part of Fox News. Imagine what was left on the cutting room floor, what kind of drivel and nonsense and confusing dementia that was foisted upon Martha MacCallum. Unbelievable. I wish it were unbelievable. I wish. Unfortunately, this is the reality that we have to contend with. The usurpation of our constitutional rights as citizens. Not only if you're a liberal, only if you're a Democrat, only if you have leftist attitudes about how to run the country, only then. If you're a conservative, you're a Republican, you're free to spew vile hate speech, use invectives and racial slurs. It's encouraged even. It's a badge of honor for you. But if you make jokes about the dear leader, his fatness, his stupidness, his lack of health acuity even, then you're at risk. They're coming for us next. Eventually, it's going to get down to those who don't have a YouTube channel. But if you made comments about Donald Trump on Facebook or if you're still on the Nazi Twitter or if you're over on Blue Sky, they're coming for you too. I mean, even Fallon, who hosted Donald Trump and tousled his hair. Even Jimmy Fallon, who appears to be some kind of an ass-kissing quisling for Donald Trump. Even he is still being targeted. You can't save yourself. ABC paid out $15 million. They're still being targeted by Donald Trump. Come on.
And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck.
For as long as I'm able to, I will repeat, I'm going to be here on YouTube, on Facebook, on the internet, providing what I believe to be passionate, sometimes bombastic political commentary, my opinion about things, in the face of a very real threat to shut down dissent, to shut down joke making about Donald Trump, to shut down mockery of the dear leader. After all, that's why I'm wearing my my North Korean propaganda outfit today, right? So please subscribe if you're not subscribed to this channel. If you watch my content with any regularity, if you appreciate the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and our, for now, right to say the things we want to say that are critical of this administration. Because it could be going away. I'm going to have to find some kind of an alternative out there, maybe my own website. I don't know, but I'm nervous about it. So please support independent media just by subscribing. It's free. Go over to the Facebook page and like and follow there. Eric Swalwell is a leader in a way that we need in this moment. And he has his eye on the ball. Yesterday in committee, he sent a message to Brendan Carr. He tweeted about it, but then I got a video clip of him. And he's telling Brendan Carr, look, we're going to have the majority here after the midterms. And we're going to have subpoena power. And we're going to have investigatory power in a way we don't have it now, being in the minority. So you need to lawyer up, Brendan Carr. We're going to find out what role you had to play in using the weight of the federal government to get Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely suspended. We're going to find out exactly what role you had to play in the firing and the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's show. We're gonna find out. Eric Swalwell tweeted this: "Get a lawyer, Brendan Carr, FCC, and save your documents. In a dim majority, your ass is going to be a witness in the witness chair for a long time. It's all coming out, all of your corrupt deals." And you might say, well, how does he know? Why does he even suspect that Brendan Carr had any role to play in this private corporation, this public company, but a private business, who they hire, who they fire, and what they allow to be broadcast on their air? You might ask that question. And I think it's a valid question. And all we have to do is look at the tweets, the motivations, the public accounting of Brendan Carr and what he has said. First of all, I shared this the other day. This is from Brian Stelter. I asked FCC Chair Brendan Carr if he had any new comment now that ABC has pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show, and he sent me this gif. Raise the roof. Jimmy Kimmel has been indefinitely suspended. Raise the roof, says the supposed to be arbiter of truth, non-biased FCC chairman. And you might say, well, that's just Brian Stelter saying that he used this gift. We don't know that he actually did. How do you know that Brendan Carr's the guy who likes to reply with gifts? And I would say, stop giving these people the benefit of the doubt. Because this person, Druid Dude on the Nazi Twitter, said this was all in Project 2025, by the way. To which Brendan Carr answered with this Jack Nicholson tweet from, I think, the movie Anger Management. Yes, it is a part of Project 2025. Yes. Remember the Project 2025 that Donald Trump disavowed. Remember when Anna Kasparian scolded everyone? Donald Trump said he doesn't know anything about Project 2025, guys. Come on, guys. Once again, as an aside, the people who got the thing so wrong, the thing that was so easy to see, the people who got it so wrong, you can ignore them now. You can disregard their opinion into the future. Because if you get something that fucking big wrong, that's something that obvious wrong, you are no longer credible, Anna Kasparian and the rest of the horde of morons. Now, let's get back to Brendan Carr. Eric Swalwell will be in a position to subpoena documents, to compel the testimony. Already, just based on oversight, they have the power to do so. But with the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives, and I pray to God, a majority in the Senate, we will be able to impeach, we will be able to remove, we will be able to have the power of governance, clawing back control over 1/3 of the United States government and a co-equal branch to that of the executive. Because right now, there is no oversight. It's just protect Donald Trump at all costs under Mike Johnson and the rest of these morons. So here's Eric Swalwell in committee with his tribute to Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Kimmel Live hat on, explaining to Brendan Carr, who I'm sure is listening, that you better lawyer up.
So I want to make it clear, there's going to be a Democratic majority in just over a year. And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck and who benefited and what the cost was to the American people because that happened.
And when we find out that the government played a role in the firing, of the squelching of someone's free speech, of the violation of someone's individual liberties and constitutional rights, there will be hell to pay through impeachment and removal. And you might say to yourself, well, how do you know, based just not on tweets, but anything else, what has Brendan Carr said? Well, Brendan Carr, before it was even announced that Jimmy Kimmel had been fired, he went on with Benny Johnson, the unregistered foreign agent for Russia, the recipient of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from Vladimir Putin himself at the Kremlin to promulgate, to promote, to distribute Kremlin propaganda. So he ran, the FCC chairman ran to Benny Johnson's show, and this was how they opened the segment with Brendan Carr. Remember this after you watch it.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for being on our program. This is something that obviously has concerned a great many number of people about Jimmy Kimmel's monologue. What does the FCC's stance on this? Certainly is a heightened moment in American history where you do not want to see copycats, you do not want to see further radicalization, but by slandering and maligning and distorting what happened to Charlie Kirk, Jimmy Kimmel seems to be inviting it.
Yeah, well, first of all, Benny, I don't think, you and I haven't had a chance to talk yet since Charlie Kirk's death. And I think I was going to join everything that you have been saying about Charlie, his life, an amazing man. I think what was so revealing in the last few days is, I think what dawned on so many people is that, everyone I think knew that Charlie Kirk had said something kind to them, had lifted them up when they were at, either a low point in their career or at no point in their career. When you saw so many people conveying their stories with Charlie, you saw a sort of a connection across hundreds and thousands of people that you knew he meant something to you, but you didn't know that he had somehow found the capacity to be that sort of meaningful inspiration for so many people. I think that's why there's sort of a dawning on people and a reflection in the last couple of days that's been so meaningful to see. When you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he had a tweet out last week where he was saying that, emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick.
Which isn't your purview, FCC chairman. You are not allowed to restrict the free speech rights of an American citizen or any other inhabitant of this country. We all have due process. We all have the same constitutional rights that are not granted by, but protected by the United States Constitution. Isn't that the thing that the Project 2025 conservatives are constantly saying? We live in a constitutional republic. The Constitution just protects our rights. It doesn't grant them. These are natural rights. These are God-given rights. Isn't that the same thing you always say? Mr. Project 2025, huh? After you've subscribed for free below this video on YouTube and followed and liked the Facebook page Dollemore Daily over on Facebook, please sound off. You can talk about this in the comments below. We can have a conversation there. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. 1, we need more leaders like Eric Swalwell. 2, it's time for everyone to wake up, get involved, get active, and get organized to fight for our country and those same Constitution-protected rights that conservatives love to talk about. They just don't live up to it. They're going to model recruitment efforts for the military around someone who refused to serve in the military. Get a load of this load of shit. Here's a tweet from NBC News. New Pentagon leaders are considering a new recruiting campaign that would encourage young people to honor the legacy of Charlie Kirk by joining the military according to two officials familiar with the planning. You know, there's millions of people all across the country who actually served in the United States military, who actually volunteered to don the uniform of their country. In my case, it was the uniform of a United States Marine. And all these millions of people, they could be used to build a recruitment marketing campaign around. Instead, you go to Charlie Kirk, who had the opportunity to serve. He could have volunteered to be the patriot everyone claims he is on the right. And he did not. He was either too afraid, which is the likely answer, too much of a coward, or just not interested in serving his country in the United States Marine Corps or Army or Navy or Air Force. He could have even gone to the Coast Guard, but he did not. So what better way to enshrine his legacy as the coward, non-serving patriot that he was by organizing a recruiting campaign for the military around the non-military member. This is the headline from NBC News. Military leaders consider recruiting campaigns centered on Charlie Kirk. Possible slogans discussed include, Charlie has awakened a generation of warriors. There is talk of using Turning Point USA chapters as recruitment centers. This is scary. That the Department of War, the Department of Defense head, Pete Hegseth, the white Christian nationalist who is an absolute ass-kiss lapdog for Donald Trump, is now going to reshape our military, filling it to the brim. It's already an overly conservative entity, but he wants to fill it to the brim with young, radicalized men who followed and admired Charlie Kirk, the racist Christian nationalist bigot who never served. Pentagon leaders are now considering a new recruiting campaign that would encourage young people to honor the legacy of assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk by joining the military, according to two officials familiar with the planning. The idea would be to frame the recruiting campaign as a national call to service, the officials said. Possible slogans that the Pentagon leaders have discussed include, Charlie has awakened a generation of warriors, according to the officials. Anthony Tata, who serves as Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, is leading the effort, the officials said. As part of the potential new campaign, Pentagon leaders are considering using chapters of Kirk's political organization, Turning Point USA, at schools across the U.S. as military recruitment centers, the official said. That could include inviting recruiters to be present at events or advertising for the military at the chapters, one of them explained. That would mean the military is going to be used as a fundraising mechanism, as a funding mechanism for Turning Point USA. If they're paying Turning Point USA with advertising dollars. Seems like a weird mingling of executive branch and Department of Defense dollars in a racist, white supremacist organization like Turning Point USA, does it not? President Donald Trump has credited Kirk and Turning Point USA with helping him win the 2024 election. The officials did not know what the timing would be for rolling out a possible new recruitment campaign, and it's not clear if it will ultimately happen. The idea is facing resistance from some Pentagon leaders who have privately warned those working on the effort that such a campaign could be perceived as the military trying to capitalize on Kirk's death, the two officials said. Kirk, here we are, how many paragraphs into this article? Kirk did not serve in the armed forces. Do you think? It gets worse, if you can believe it. Trump officials have sought to pay public homage to Kirk. The day after the assassination, Vice President J.D. Vance, who was close to Kirk, flew from Washington, D.C. to Utah to escort Kirk's wife and his remains back to Arizona. The Kirk's casket was carried to Air Force Two by members of the military. And Trump, Vance, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and several other members of the cabinet are scheduled to speak at a memorial service for Kirk in Arizona on Sunday. Look, I don't have much of a problem with Charlie Kirk being transported via Air Force Two. It doesn't rub me the wrong way, I guess. But it does bother me that he's getting a full military honors, and members of the United States military are forced to. They didn't volunteer. They're not asked if they want to carry the casket of a white supremacist, of a racist Christian nationalist bigot in Charlie Kirk. The flag flew at half-staff for an avowed racist. Those efforts have also extended to attempts to punish those who speak ill of Kirk or his assassination. As NBC News has previously reported, Hegseth last week told staff to actively search. NBC reported they used the word hunt, to hunt for any members of the military or others who work with the Defense Department who mocked or condoned Kirk's death so that they could be punished, and called on members of the public to report posts critical of Kirk coming from people associated with the military. See, it's not if you mocked or condoned his death, even if you posted quotes of Charlie Kirk, even if you posted to your social media that it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment, said Charlie Kirk. If you posted that, you're at threat of losing your job if you work in or around the United States military or the Pentagon. And then finally here, asked for comment by NBC News, the Defense Department provided a statement from Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell in which he said, quote, "The media is so desperate to attack this administration's success that they are now inventing lies about our recruitment efforts. Leadership matters, and under the strong leadership of President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, men and women are coming out in droves to serve this great nation." It's a tepid denial. Is it really a denial? You just attack the media, dipshit. You just attack the constitutionally protected free and fair press as a representative of the War Department. It is the worst timeline that we happen to live in, that they're going to model recruitment efforts for the military around someone who refused to serve in the military. I mean, it should come as no surprise or shock when our president, the commander-in-chief, is a draft-dodging coward, a physical weakling who, when his number was called to serve, refused and got out of it because of his bone spurs. Bone spurs that I have, by the way. It didn't stop me from serving in the United States Marine Corps for many years on active duty as an enlisted man. But I guess patriotism means something different to different folks, right?
52% say the economy is worse under this administration.
You know, Fox polling, I have to tell you, I've told you before, it's the worst polling I've ever had.
You won't be shocked to hear me call Donald Trump a sniveling, whining, just abject coward and weakling, that he cannot face reality. He cannot face facts. He wants to create a new set of metrics and data surrounding the economy, and it's not working. The American people know when they go to the grocery store, they're paying more for the things they buy. They know when they go on Amazon, they're paying more for the crap they buy on Amazon. So when polling numbers come out that 52% of Americans say the economy is worse under your administration, Donald Trump, what do you think his answer is? It's to whine. It's to complain. It's to blame Fox News polling. It's some of the worst. It's the worst polling. So we're going to play this clip of he and Martha MacCallum, and then I'm going to read from this Economist article and bring receipts, as I always want to do. First, though, Martha MacCallum trying to get through to the dear leader on her propaganda channel. Even Fox News knows the lay of the land. Watch this.
before,
when do you think
that
people are going to feel that? Because we do see polling that doesn't poll well in the economy. The recent Fox polling said 52% say the economy is worse under this administration. You've got unemployment at the highest rate in 4 years. Groceries made a big jump in the last term. So how is that? You're looking forward with these plans that you just talked about. When will people feel that, Mr.
Well,
Trump?
when the factories start opening. I mean, right now we're building them. And, Fox polling, I have to tell you, I've told you before, it's the worst polling I've ever had. It's always, during the election, they had me winning by a little bit, not by a massive amount. And Fox polling, I've told Rupert Murdoch, go get yourself a new pollster because he stinks. And this is for years now. But I will say that.
Yeah, it's the polling, bro. It's the polling. It's not the fact that the economy is in a free fall right now. You were handed a robust and recovering economy. And what'd you do with it? You pissed on it. Much like a Russian prostitute on a trip to Russia in the 1990s. Much like that. That just came to me, by the way. I know. Brilliant. Genius jokes from moron YouTuber. So here, let me share with you this. Here's the Economist article. I'll link below. 242 days into Donald Trump's term, inflation is at 2.9%. The unemployment rate is 4.3%. The S&P is up 9.6 since he took office. I want to talk about a few different metrics. One, let's start with that, the stock market. People's opinion of the stock market. Let me get my chart here so we can look. Weird. It's kind of strange that all of Trump's numbers are below both Biden and Obama. Interesting. It says, since Mr. Trump's victory, share prices have had a turbulent time. At first, investors cheered his return, but the stock market fell sharply after the announcement of Liberation Day tariffs on April 2nd. The partial reversal of those levies has since helped prices recover to just above where they were on Election Day. And if you look on where Election Day was, he was handed a brilliant, robust, recovering economy. Here are exchange rates, the weight of the US dollar against other currencies. The greenback, otherwise known as the United States dollar, has depreciated sharply since March, owing to fears about the impact of tariffs on economic growth. Mr. Trump's Liberation Day announcement in April sent it down further, still before it recovered slightly towards the end of the month. Since mid-May, the dollar has continued to slide, partly due to rumors that Mr. Trump could name, ahead of schedule, a new chair of the Federal Reserve who favors lower interest rates. Concerns about rising government debt have added to pressure. Meanwhile, the euro has appreciated, helped by Europe's pledge to raise defense spending. Look at that. Look at that chart. Where are those red numbers? Donald Trump's first and second term versus where Obama's second term and Biden's only term was. Oh, interesting. I guess it's not just the polling, is it not? Here are bond yields. I won't read the whole thing, but you can see when Biden took office, bond yields went up, they went down just slightly, and then up, 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 up. And then it was handed to Donald Trump. And where is that line going? That appears to be headed in the wrong direction, does it not? Does it not? Actually, let's read what The Economist has to say here. The yield on 10-year Treasury bonds has fluctuated since Mr. Trump's election win. It rose after polling day, but fell from mid-January as investors anticipated looser monetary policy. Yields then climbed sharply amid growing concerns over the president's fiscal plans. They have since dipped slightly. Well, we could see how they've dipped, and we could see the direction that they are currently going. Now, let's talk about this ever important metric, the labor market, the jobs market, unemployment, right? Of course, it's literally off the charts here during COVID. We can't fully blame Donald Trump. Some of the blame can go to Donald Trump because of his feckless, ineffectual, dangerous, non-reality-based handling of COVID at the end of his administration. But not all of it can be put on him. So when it's off the charts, we won't blame all of it on Trump. Then the unemployment rate went down as soon as Biden took office, down, peaked, just slightly peaked up. And then where is it headed now? See, right before Biden took office, it was on the way back down. And then where does that, is it just me, or does it seem like unemployment is on the rise again? Despite him firing the Bureau of Labor Statistics person, despite the fact that he's whining about polling, the numbers don't lie. They can't even fabricate the numbers to make it look good for Donald Trump. America's job market is weakening. Some sectors, such as manufacturing, have started cutting workers. In August, the economy overall added just 22,000 jobs. Forecasters expected around 75,000 new jobs, and about the same as July. Last month's data contained a similar nasty surprise, and several previous months of strong data were revised down. The unemployment rate at 4.3 remains low. See, I'm reading here from The Economist, which is not some liberal publication. It's a financial publication, which of course is going to be conservative. CNBC is a conservative network. The Wall Street Journal, a financial paper, is a conservative outlet. Forbes is a conservative. All of these, it's just baked in. That's what it is. Unemployment is the highest it's been in 4 years, which was when Donald Trump just got done being president. But it's the polling.
I think she's terrible. I think she should be impeached. I think she's terrible. Is she originally from Somalia?
In case you didn't know, in case you've been living under a rock for the past 10 years and you're not aware of the fact, Donald Trump is a white supremacist. He's a vile, putrid racist. He's a bigot. He's a hater. He's a fascist. And this clip should give you all the evidence of that you need. Yesterday on Air Force One, on the way back from Great Britain, Brian Glenn, the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene, asked a question about the censure of Ilhan Omar. And one, it's interesting, he purports to be, he claims to be, he cosplays as a member of the press, Brian Glenn, the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he got it all wrong, because Ilhan Omar was not censured yesterday. The vote failed. In fact, here is a little write-up from the Washington Post about it. Here's the headline. Effort to censure Representative Ilhan Omar over Charlie Kirk comments fails. The effort was part of a GOP campaign to punish individuals Republicans accuse of posthumously smearing Charlie Kirk. A resolution to censure Ilhan Omar of Minnesota over comments and a social media post she made regarding conservative leader Charlie Kirk's death failed Wednesday. The resolution was introduced under special rules by Representative Nancy Mace, of course, on Monday, fast-tracking it to the floor. House Minority Whip Catherine Clark, Democrat of Massachusetts, introduced a motion to table, essentially to dismiss the resolution Wednesday. And the motion to table succeeded by a vote of 214 to 213, with 4 Republicans, Mike Flood of Nebraska, Jeff Hurd of Colorado, Tom McClintock of California, and Corey Mills of Florida, voting with Democrats. So it failed. So you go into this knowing that what Brian Glenn is telling the President of the United States is factually incorrect. It's wrong. It's a lie, the thing he's telling Donald Trump. An easily provable lie based on the congressional record. But here's this exchange, and I left the first part of it on, where Donald Trump is rambling about birds being fried when they land on certain surfaces. He's just an addled, demented old grandpa who just likes to spin a yarn and tell his tales. It's remarkable. And then I want you to listen to Brian Glenn, the man who demanded that Volodymyr Zelensky wear a suit in the Oval Office out of respect. He's treating the president like a drinking buddy here. He says to him, I was going to ask you last week in the Oval Office, blah, 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 blah. I was going to ask you. Oh, yeah. Hey, bro, I was going to ask you, man. This is how the relationship between Brian Glenn, the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is the relationship between he and the president. This isn't a standard journalist-president relationship. This was a teed up question for Donald Trump to answer. And you'll never guess how well, you will guess. It's racism, it's bigotry, it's hatred, it's just absolute anti-blackness on full display by Donald Trump here, calling into question the loyalty to the country, calling into to question the civility, the civilized nation. I mean, the only thing we're lucky is that he didn't call the people of Somalia savages or some shit like that. It was on the tip of his tongue, you can tell. Watch this exchange from, once again, the boyfriend of Marjorie Taylor Greene and our unfortunate President of the United States of America.
You ever see what happens to a bird when the birds land? They get fried because it's hot. So you don't need a saucer. You don't need a stove. No, a bird lands on it, it's over. And then they say it's great for the environment. You know, the lunatics. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, last week in the Oval Office, I asked you about if Ilhan Omar should be censored. Congress censored her. I just want to get your reaction to that.
They did censor her. When did this happen?
Yesterday.
Yeah, good. I think she's terrible. I think she should be impeached. I think she's terrible. Is she originally from Somalia?
Yes, sir.
So how are they doing this? How's their government? Do they have a president? Do they have a council? Do they have anything? Do they have police? I love these people that come from a place with nothing, no anything, and then they tell us how to run our country. No, I think if she got censored, that's great. If she got impeached, that's even better. They impeached me twice for nothing. And they impeached me knowing the Republicans are on my side, so they knew it was just, but they impeached me twice. She should be impeached, and it should happen fast. What she says is out of line.
Where to begin? First of all, a member of Congress cannot be impeached. You fucking moron. You abject dumb shit. You're the president of the United States of America, and you don't have a single solitary motherfucking clue how anything works. And you're teeing up morons like Brian Glenn to ask you questions so you can rant and rave about the blackness, about the foreign nature of Ilhan Omar, the United States citizen, Ilhan Omar, a more patriotic woman in her pinky than Donald Trump possesses in the entirety of the blubber that surrounds his skeletal structure. A gross response from a white supremacist president. I think she's terrible. I think she should be impeached. That's not a thing. I think she's terrible. Is she originally from Somalia? What in the fiddle and does that have to do with anything Donald Trump? So how are they doing this? How's your government? She's a citizen of the United States, Donald Trump, and a member of the government of the United States. This is her government. Do they have a president? Do they have a council? Do they have anything? Do they have police? Are you talking about the government of the United States, the government of which she's a part? Or are you being a racist troll and making fun of the country in which she was born, Somalia? They come from a place with nothing, no anything, and they tell us how to run our country. They is doing a lot of racist heavy lifting right there. Do you mean black people? Do you mean Africans? Do you mean Somalis? Do you mean Ilhan Omar and her family? What do you mean? Why don't you just say it? You're a brave, bold man who's unencumbered by political correctness. Why don't you just say the thing that you want to say? That she's not a real American because she's black, because she is an immigrant, because she occupies space in groups that you hate, that you're attacking and maligning. Donald Trump, just be the bold, brave patriot you claim to be and say the fucking thing. Teed up by Bag Eyes Brian Glenn. Ugh, just, they impeached me twice for nothing. It's, again, the worst timeline in the history of all timelines. What do you think? I will invite you to this conversation, but please, before you do, follow this channel on Facebook, like this channel on Facebook. It is Dollemore Daily, and you can also subscribe, which is free. Click the subscribe button below. Help me get to 1.5 million. Help me secure my position of being a little bit less easy to mess with Donald Trump, pressuring YouTube and whoever else to silence voices on the left who speak the truth, who aren't even, I'm not going to be a sweetsy sweet about Donald Trump. I'm not going to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt or treat him with respect. He's trying to destroy our country and drag with it into that destruction the Constitution of the United States. Anyway, what do you think? You can comment below. You can also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. More of us should be supporting Ilhan Omar in this moment. It is distasteful that so many Democrats treat her as though she's some kind of a second-class citizen in the Congress. Again, she is a patriot, the likes of which conservatives wish they could be. I will see you next time. I love and appreciate you very much. Have a great weekend. Be genuine and take care of one another.